So anyway, cool. I am glad you're here. Let's go ahead and get the show started. Tell me a little bit about your business. What do you do?
Yeah. Okay. So I work with Florida Business Exchange. I am a business intermediary, which that is a bit of an obscure term, but for better purposes, a business broker. And long and short, what we do, I guess, is the best way to describe that. Is really three things. One, we help confidentially market for sale businesses for sellers of small businesses. Number two is we help business owners value their businesses for a number of reasons, but generally for an exit strategy at some point that they're looking at. What we find is probably 70 to 80% of small business owners' net worth is tied up in their business, right? So how many assets do people have and they don't understand the value of? I mean, generally, if it's your house, you understand the value of the home you live in today, or you have an automobile. Even if it's not an expensive automobile, you may have a sense of what that automobile is worth and many of your other assets. But when it comes down to businesses, small business owners don't always know the value of their business, and yet a huge part of their wealth or their personal savings or what have you are tied up in that business. And the third thing that we do, or that I do, is to connect buyers or people that want to buy a business, entrepreneurs, to sellers of businesses, and work with them to buy a business, more or less, or a franchise.
So
go ahead.
What's it? Oh, I was going to say, I imagine because of, what's been going on with this COVID-19 thing and, businesses being not allowed to operate for 2.5 months, I imagine there's going to be a fair number of people wanting to sell their business over the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We're getting a lot of different feedback. One is buyers are out there, like people are scouring the internet. I think they've had more time at home. Perhaps they are a corporate refugee, so to speak, that they've been laid off, they've been furloughed, or just have more time at home, and they're looking at businesses. Maybe they've wanted to be an entrepreneur for some time, and things have kept them from doing that. And maybe they felt a little bit held hostage from an employer at this point, that, man, I want to finally, I've thought about it. I want to take my fate into my own hands, and I want to be my own boss, and I want to control my own destiny. And so you have a lot of people looking at businesses right now in the in the service industry, in restaurants and that sort. I think they've hunkered down a lot, trying to figure out, what does this mean to them? What's going to happen? Many of them are reopening now, and they're under new criteria, new regulation, and what that means. And so some of them are reinventing themselves. Is it this takeout, curbside, family style? What can I do with my seating and so forth? And then you've got some that have kind of stuck their head in the sand a little bit. And then you have kind of essential services. And some of those businesses, Mike, are really taking off, and they're so busy right now that, that they don't have time to talk. But I think generally you are right in that over the next 6 months, couple years, what we're going to see is many of these baby boomers are going to be looking at, selling their business, and certainly want to understand what it's worth, right?
Exactly, right, yeah. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you an independent operator? Do you have employees? How big's your company?
I work for a firm. I am an independent. In this regard, for FBX, I am an independent agent, more or less. There, I do some consulting with another group, and I used to own the company. I sold the company, and I kind of head up a certain amount of the operations as a consultant, which we do have employees, and we have had to make some changes in that business.
Right.
But in the business, yeah, I'm independent, and so I'm a one man band on that one.
Right. So I guess part of what we're doing here is how has COVID affected your business?
Yeah, from the brokerage business, it's had a dynamic effect. I mean, it's obviously for a period of time, people have really holed up. They've not been very aggressive. How I've gone out to market myself to acquire new business has changed dramatically, because I think in these times when people and business owners are, they're suffering, and they are, their business is suffering. Financially, it's tough. I think you have to alter how you go out and reach out to people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it seems a bit insensitive to just pile right in with a hard driving marketing message to business owners when there's such a wide variety of issues that they're going through and a process that they're going through. So what I've chosen to do is to, softly go in here and reach out to current customers, past clients, maybe just people that I've had conversations with, and just re-engage, but re-engage more softly and gently to saying, hey, what's going on with you? How's your business? What are you experiencing? And hey, can I help? There's resources out there. Have you filed for your PPP? Have you looked at the EIDL grants and loans as an opportunity, and really just kind of been there as a resource to say, hey, I've been sitting on industry seminars and I've been following up on some of these things, and here's some steps maybe you could look at taking to do that, and really become a confidant to them more than coming in and saying, hey, are you interested in marketing your business for sale with me? And a hard driving, more where we're, outgoing, great guns with outgoing calls, emails, postcards, mailings, and so forth. So it's just been a softer, gentler, more, I would say, sensitive approach to the business, if that makes sense.
So you're kind of marketing to your warm market, people already know who you are?
Yeah, I think so. I think generally so. Now I've had some still outgoing calls and maybe missed calls, but when I get to them, it's more of this, hey, how are you doing? How's your business going? What are you seeing out there? Hey, I've got some clients that have had similar circumstances come up, and here's maybe how they have approached this. Would that help you? Are there some resources? Can I connect you with someone perhaps? So, so we're still doing some outgoing, but we've slowed it down and we've kind of changed the tone, because I think you seem a bit tone deaf right now in my industry, certainly marketing to small business owners. You seem a bit tone deaf to act like nothing's going on. The world is just the same, and I can't appreciate what you're going through, if that makes sense.
Right. And that's exactly what this podcast is all about, is being able to interview business owners, because everybody's going through struggles, but how are business owners dealing with those struggles? What resources are they using? And then, maybe somebody can learn something from you. Do you have any sort of information you send to people when they're struggling? You say, listen, have you tried this resource or that resource? Do you email them any information?
There have been more when there were some documents floating around early on. I think as people were the first and second rounds of the PPP loans and the EIDL that were links to that information, because some small business owners, they're technicians, right? They're really good at whatever it is they do, but sometimes outside of that scope or their sphere, they're maybe closed off to certain things, right? And so, if you're a good restaurateur or or a technician, an air conditioning repair service, or this, that industry back and forth. But sometimes these folks don't necessarily have great relationships with the banking community or other resources out there. So at the time, there were some, hey, I think I could send you a link. And you know what? Here's something from my network group that a CPA had put together. on how to access these things. And again, what I want to be careful of is that I am not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice or accounting advice. But what I want to do is pass on some resources that people in my network that are experts, right? That what they have and what they've offered up to their clients. Hey, and let me recommend this document. Here's how you can go about this. And by the way, if you don't have a professional, an accountant or working with a bank, perhaps I could maybe make a suggestion on a couple that may be of value to you to handhold you and guide you through this process. So once again, being somewhat more, instead of being that expert in each one of those individually, because I'm not, try to pass on what I've learned and who the experts are and how they might get access to them.
Yeah, I can tell you one of the most important books I ever read was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And he talks about when you're the owner of a company, you need to work on your business, not in your business.
That's right.
And the majority of small business owners are technicians working in their business because they're really good at it. They generally started working for somebody else and like, I want to do this on my own, control my own life. And then they, start their own business and they're really good at operating their business, but they're not good at standing back and taking that 50,000 foot view. Like, all right, how do I plan for the future? How do I handle this problem? I need to have this resource. I mean, it's pretty common knowledge that, most CEOs making $10 million a year are not worth $10 million a year. What they're worth is who they know. When there's a major problem, they know who to pick up the phone and call to solve that problem quickly. Yeah. That's where the value comes from.
Yeah, you're 100% book. Great, right, and that is a great book. And I can't tell you, like in my experience, how often that is true, right? And it is, and it amazes me because I tell you what's happened, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? I come from both my parents were entrepreneurs, small business owners, Main Street type businesses, and they were great technicians in what they did. But on certain level, they just worked inside the business day in and day out, right? They raised their family, they paid their bills. What they did, in essence, like in some cases, and there's nothing wrong with this, so I'm not knocking this in a way, they bought themselves a job, right?
Yeah.
Most entrepreneurs, they've bought themselves a job and they work in that business. When something different comes along, like COVID or other things,
the government decides to shut down the whole country, this whole Black Lives Matter thing, I'm in Polk County, Florida, and we got a state of emergency last night.
Yep.
So, I mean, these are things you cannot control and you can't foresee.
No. And so so what we try to be is to be a liaison for the right kind of contacts, and that's what I find, in my experience and what I do is to help business owners maybe look out past their business, because what we talked about is, hey, look, you own a business, it served you well. Right. Let's say you're 62 years old. It served you well. You raised your kids. You put them through college. You have some savings, that you've accumulated. It's not huge, but it's been great. You know what? The payday for you as a business owner is when you sell your business. And many business owners don't know how to go about that, right? That's kind of your retirement package for a lot of small business owners, right? You've just worked, you've grinded. And then comes a day where you're like, I don't want to do it anymore. I can't do it anymore, or I'm burned out, or some other life event. We call it the 3 Ds, death, divorce, or dissolution, or a company. These things happen. And if they don't plan for it, right? The sad thing is many business owners shut the doors. When the time comes, they don't know what to do. They don't know what their business is worth. They don't have experience in this area, and they shut their doors. And to me, it's tragic and it's sad. And it's one of the reasons I like doing what I do is, hey, let's get ahead of this. Let's talk about a game plan. Let's talk about a strategy for when that happens, because this is more or less your retirement package, right? If you've just hit it out of the park, this is your retirement package, is exiting your business in a way that gets you some money at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about how COVID has affected your business. Have you had to alter your business like I've talked to a lot of business owners that they're more relying on their online marketing than trying to get foot traffic, or if you're kind of in a personal sales situation where you can't meet face to face. Are you doing more Zoom meetings, things like that?
Yeah, I tell you, always welcome conference calls and that sort of thing. But Zoom has been an everyday, just a new phenomenon in my life is Zoom meetings, and they're really effective. In fact, I think before COVID, myself and maybe clients and even other professionals that I network with, we'd always, rather prefer to get together face to face, right? That's now, and there's a lot of benefit to that, and I don't see that going away. But what the Zoom and the COVID has taught us is, there's a big time savings sometimes for just getting together. Like where I'm spending my time today, for small business owners to think about, where I'm spending my time today is spending a lot more time networking with professionals, bankers, lawyers, CPAs, people that are in my sphere, and because they have time. Look, it's nice when we could meet for a cup of coffee, but what really has happened in the past is we would use that as a deterrent, right? Our schedules aren't meeting up, right? It takes time. We got to find parking. We got to go here. We got to name a place. We got to do all this stuff. And sometimes that gets in the way of good networking. And so what I found is my networking has really been my primary tool to grow my business. And it's organic. It takes longer, right, Mike? I'd like to tell you that there's just, new customers and clients dropping in all the time because of it. I think it's more of a long haul effort. I think it'll be a better effort, right? Because if you think about it, and you are in a situation where you're considering retirement, you want to consider your options. Who knows about it first? Probably your family planning attorney, if you have one, or an accountant, or maybe a private banker, or your local community bank. You may be discussing these things. And when that person says, hey, I know a guy, what it sounds like, you need to understand what your business is worth today before you consider anything, and I know a guy. So these conversations are starting to happen. And I would say Zoom has really allowed that to happen at a much higher level than in the past. So, I mean, to your point, I think that's really where most of my marketing is today, is kind of networking through the Zoom channels and doing what we call one-to-ones.
Right. And what we found is it's a whole lot quicker. I mean, it's no secret that when you've got to go meet somebody, the majority of your day is driving to them and driving away from them. But on a Zoom call, you can have a 10-minute conversation and take 15 minutes doing it.
Yeah. And I will tell you this too, as much as I would love to tell you everybody shows up and they're on time and they meet when they're supposed to, small business owners get distracted, right? And they're working on things they should, their business. And so if I set something up, there are times where somebody can't post, or I get there and they're too busy to meet at that time. They had that 5-alarm fire, they had an emergency, an employee didn't show, whatever the case may be. And I drove a half hour, I drove an hour, I spent the time to prepare. And where I find with Zoom is, hey, we get it there. If something has happened, I'm still in my office, I'm still effective. I move on without wasting an hour or so. And I think it's less intimidating too for some people to just, once they get the hang of it and you get them on there, man, you don't have to deal with a lot of the, hey, do we shake? Do we hug? Do we, what do we do here when we meet? And we're going through all that.
Elbow, fist bump in.
all this, deal. So, I think it's been huge. And I think in talking to other professionals, I think we will see Zoom be a bigger part of our businesses going forward when things return to whatever that new normal. I think we will continue to say, hey, maybe our first meeting, our first engagement with a client. And the other thing that I have, Mike, in our business is, one of the worst things for a business owner when they're considering to sell their business, okay, one of the worst things they can do is allow people to know the business is for sale. Right? If you're thinking about selling your business and your employees find out, they're going to start looking for another job. They're going to say, man, I don't know what gives, but the boss has been talking about selling. Maybe my job's not secure. Maybe I need to look for another job. And that may not be a reality, but that's what they feel. Or, vendors start getting a little bit nervous, or competitors find out, and what do they say? Well, gosh, you don't want to deal with Mike. You heard he's going out of business, right? And so they put another spin on that. So what Zoom's allowed me to do, instead of showing up or finding an offsite place to meet in a restaurant or whatever, we're able to sit in the comfort of their home, in their monitor or their office privately, me and mine, without having that awkwardness of potentially, again, opening that up, of the confidentiality. So it's helped us keep that confidentiality. So again, face to face, there's a place for it. I think it's preferred when we can get it, but there are certainly advantages on Zoom and networking that way.
And to your point, I mean, eventually this thing is gonna pass. Okay. Sure. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but this is gonna pass and we're gonna get back to normal. I'm gonna get to watch my Yankees, even if they only play a third of a season. But how do you see your business changing, or how do you see the business environment being permanently changed by what we're going through? I've talked to a lot of business owners, and I know some business owners at a very high level that have realized that they don't have to fight traffic and go to an office or have all their employees in a building. And they're actually figuring out that they can actually maybe even work from home one day a week. So How do you feel about that? Do you see that being part of your business? As, like I said, maybe from a scheduling or a time point of view, that you're doing more video, and then, when you need to sign contracts and things like that, then you're actually going to go meet with them. If you network them. That's sort of
I think that's right on. I think it's I think this is a nice, convenient, and an alternative to meeting face to face. Before, in the industry, if I would have said, "Hey, I'm going to send you a link, and you're going to have your camera, and I'm going to have mine, and we're going to have this conversation," well, there's a lot of people that have trepidation or not comfortable or weren't comfortable at that time, where I think this has become more and more of our daily lives. So it's opened it up. We have a new comfort level, right, with operating this way. And it beats the heck out of a regular phone call. I mean, just sitting here having the conversation with you, to see your expressions and to know if we're connecting, and the head nods and the things that we normally do, I think it's very advantageous in a lot of ways. So I see, some businesses that can adapt and go that way. Certainly, I think in the professional worlds that I'm talking to, the lawyers, accountants, and bankers, and real estate and some other things, I mean, watching some of the real estate folks, I mean, they're doing virtual showings and things like that as well.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's certainly a big change. I think the other big change that I see, and it's a little bit off of, I think, where you were going as far as the video element is, I think there are a lot of people that I look at that are considering retiring, considering exiting their business, but they kept saying, "Hey, you know what? It's just so good. I'm just going to put one more year, and I'm going to build one more year on that. I'm going to get those profits, and I can't see any end in sight. And I'm going to grow this, and I'm going to grow this, and I'm going to grow this." And I think what it's made people realize that, you know what? Things can happen to our businesses that we didn't expect. I couldn't plan for, and you know what? We had an old saying. I spent a lot of time in Arkansas working there for a while. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered, and and it's true sometimes, right? So sometimes we've hit that threshold, and I think what this great pause has given us is just that, a pause to reflect, and for business owners to say, you know what? I think we've put enough up. I think I really do want to spend time with my grandkids. I do think we want to travel. I do think we want to, get that place in the mountain. I think we want to do those things. And we've been so, just grinding and grinding and grinding because it was so good. This pause is maybe now getting people to look at, hey, this may not go on forever. The hitting streak that we had, every hitting streak comes to an end. And maybe I need to at least plan it out, even if it's not for tomorrow, next month, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. Let me create a plan and work to that plan. It can change. It can be altered and adapted, but let me start working to a plan because there are things that are going to come up in this world that we couldn't expect. And we've been just hammered with too, the COVID and certainly the protests and the things that have happened with that have altered. I mean, think about the businesses that have been affected by that. Just when you think, things are bad and for many poor business owners and individuals, and heart goes out to them across the country that have suffered, disruption at another level with these things that have been going on. So,
one of the things I've been doing is the up and coming platform is TikTok, and it's 18 months old. So it's completely 100% unfiltered. And, as you're watching these 60-second videos, what I'm seeing a lot of is Black-owned businesses. And they're yelling at these black and white riders, or, any color, it doesn't matter. These riders, like, I worked too hard to build this.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. But, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, go out and start a business and you'll find out how hard it is to build it, and then you won't want to tear somebody else down. Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent, but I try to keep these interviews to about 30 minutes. So we're coming up on that 30-minute mark. So I wanted to ask you one last question is, what are your thoughts on how business, is going to be permanently changed for the foreseeable future?
That's a good question. I don't know if we know that. I do think it will get back to normal. It will be a new normal. What will it be like from restaurants going forward? I don't think we'll have face masks and all of that, for forever and ever. But, certainly, I don't know. It's just going to be a challenge. Who's going to want to go sit in a crowded arena? And how long will that be? And we'll return there. We're going to, I'm a big SEC fan and football fan. And so I'm not anxious to go necessarily to a ball game here, but what's going to happen? How will people adjust to that? An example of this, Mike, that I thought was interesting of how business will adjust. And I thought it was great. And I don't know anything about it, but I'll give them a plug just because I thought it was cool. I was sitting on the beach yesterday with my middle son, and here come two e-bikes going by, and they're logoed up. It's Eats NSB. And so I live in New Smyrna, and there were two kids with, nice shirts on, logoed up, and they had these boxes on the back, and they're riding down the beach. And I thought, I wonder what that is. So I Googled up Eats with a Z NSB, and I looked it up, and it's these two kids. And it looks like their business. I don't know that. And basically, they're going to local restaurants, and people can order the food, go into local restaurants. These kids go pick it up on their e-bikes, and will deliver it to your chair on the beach. Now,
you got to be kidding me!
I'm not kidding you. So
those kids. Follow those kids. They're going to be like billionaires in 15 years.
And somebody had probably helped them out because they were young and they've got these electric bikes. They're not cheap. But I think what we're going to see for every disruption, for every downturn, there are winners. There are people that evolve, and the people that are open to evolving and figuring out how to do business differently will be winners here. People that clutch too hard to the old way and won't adapt, there's going to be hard times and hardships. But I think new business opportunities will come out of this that we couldn't have even seen or expected, as evidenced by these two young men on these e-bikes. And I don't think that's going away just because restaurants open up at full bore. But this created an opportunity, and people were open-minded, or now open-minded enough to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't need to go sit in a restaurant. I still want restaurant quality food, and this is a convenience. So I think there'll be a lot of service industries that do well coming out of this for sure.
I wonder if those kids have an app. You're sitting on the beach. I want a burger and fries and a Coke. 10 minutes later, a kid comes up on a bike, and you're on the beach. You haven't moved. Your feet are still in the water, and you got your burger. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. So there'll be winners out there for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, I want to bring this interview to an end. But before I do that, I always ask everybody, because I've been doing this marketing thing for about 30 years now, how can I help your business? What's going on with your business? How can I help your business?
Well, I appreciate you asking the question. Just having me on your podcast video is help, because I think the biggest challenge that I have with my industry and business is people don't know we're out there. Not all brokers are the same. There are people that are, like any business, that are out quickly to satisfy their own needs and to make income through transactions and so forth. But I think there are a lot of true professionals that want to help business owners not only survive, but thrive. And so opportunities like this to get out there and speak to the industry helps my business. So I think just by being here and creating an awareness for our industry is great help. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Fantastic. So in ending, give me the name of your business, and if somebody's watching this and they've been thinking about this, or they're thinking about putting together a plan, an exit strategy, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, a number of different ways. Certainly they can call me by phone and we can talk. My number is 386-320-6732. My email address is bart.shaad. That's bart.shaad, SCHAD, at fbxbrokers.com. You can look me up on our website at floridabuyselLbiz.com.
Do you have any social media? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter?
Those are the main. My website has a few of those. I'm working on that. I'm a little behind on the social media buzz on that. Most of mine's personal networking. So I appreciate the opportunity. And but if anybody will drop me an email, give me a call, look at the website. There's a number of ways to reach out to me, and I will follow up with you.
Fantastic. Bart, I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much for all the valuable information you share with us.
All right. Thank you for having me. Good.
All right. Take care.
Stay well.